For the sake of money, Leo Carter followed the wealthy old man home. When the man's son descended the stairs, Leo froze. It was the person he had secretly adored in his youth. Julian Vance crushed the cigarette between his fingers, his eyes locking onto Leo with a cold sneer, asking his uncle if this was the new plaything he'd found. Leo was a beta, the kind of person who, even if he sold himself in a club, was considered a bargain bin item nobody wanted. On this rainy night, a tycoon dripping in designer brands had taken an interest in him, wanting Leo to accompany him home. It was Leo's first time being chosen. He had resigned himself to his fate, but when the penthouse door opened and he saw that tall, defiant figure walking down the floating staircase, his entire body went rigid. Julian Vance. Why, of all people, did it have to be him? Julian cast a remote glance in his direction, the smoke from his fingertips drifting over. Leo's eyes felt dry. Julian remarked that his uncle's new man looked. He scanned Leo from head to toe, his gaze lingering on his features before he carelessly stubbed out his cigarette. He called him bland. The old tycoon, Mr. Linden, looked at Julian impassively, stating that a man had to try new things. He adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, glanced at Leo, and instructed him to go upstairs. Leo moved stiffly, his head bowed as he passed Julian. He still possessed that same aloof air, untouched by anyone or anything. It seemed Julian hadn't recognized him. A small wave of relief washed over Leo, but a heavy feeling still clogged his chest. A housekeeper led him into a lavishly furnished bedroom. When he emerged from the shower with only a towel wrapped around his waist, a figure was sitting on the sofa. Julian didn't even turn his head, his voice a low command for him to take it off. Leo was stunned, looking around the room and wondering where the old man was. Julian seemed to notice his confusion and informed him that if he was unwilling, he could leave right now. Leo's fingers clenched. He could have abandoned all his pride for a stranger, but he couldn't do it in front of Julian Vance, the man he had loved for 6 years. To meet again under such humiliating circumstances was more than he could bear. His voice was too choked to speak. He turned and walked toward the door. A familiar notification chimed from his phone. It was a late payment alert from his CR card company. His sister was still in the hospital, waiting for surgery. After a few seconds, Leo walked back to the sofa. His head hung low, his trembling fingers hesitantly untying the knot of his towel. Julian glanced at him, then quickly looked away. He pressed a button, and a bookcase slid apart, revealing a wall of devices and toys Leo had never seen before. He stared, his mind a complete blank. Julian calmly poured a glass of whiskey, telling him it wasn't too late to change his mind. Leo bit his lip and insisted he had no regrets. He was selling himself either way. What difference did it make? Julian always had a flock of admirers, countless beautiful omegas among them. It was perfectly normal that he wouldn't remember a plain beta like him. It was better if he never did. Julian handed him a drink. After Leo drank it, a searing heat spread through his body. Julian grabbed his collar and pushed him onto the sofa. His actions were not gentle. He was rough, urgent, as if trying to unleash some pent-up fury. Leo had no scent and couldn't smell pheromones, but he felt Julian repeatedly biting the back of his neck, an alpha's primal need to claim his prey. When he couldn't breathe, his fingers flailed for something to hold on to. Julian deliberately released him, a slight, mocking smile on his lips. He told Leo to choose something from the wall of toys. Leo had seen a few at the club but didn't know their purpose. As his eyes darted around uncertainly, Julian pinned his legs. He said that since Leo was so indecisive, he would choose for him. His tone was glacial, his eyes swirling with a thick, possessive intent. He reached out, and a blindfold covered Leo's eyes. The rest of the night was a blur. It felt as if he had died and been reborn countless times, a fish on a chopping block, completely at Julian's mercy. But this Julian was different from the one he remembered. The Julian of the past was always unhurried, as if everything was under his control. Tonight, his emotions were volatile, almost manic. When tears streamed down Leo's face, he heard a soft click of Julian's tongue. Leo managed to tell him that he had no pheromones, that if Julian wanted to mark someone, he should find an omega. Julian replied that omegas were too delicate. He pressed on the back of Leo's neck, and Leo flinched from the pain. Julian let out a low laugh, mocking him for being just as fragile. He added that betas were better, though. There was no responsibility. A sharp pang shot through Leo's heart. He closed his eyes and let him do as he pleased. Until the very end, Julian never kissed him. Perhaps he found him dirty. The lights flicked on, and the blindfold was yanked away. Julian gripped his chin, studying him closely. He asked if they had been in the same high school class. Leo forced a polite, professional smile to mask his deep-seated shame and embarrassment, denying it and saying Julian must have misremembered. Julian's eyes dropped, and he flipped Leo over. His voice was cold as he stated that in that case, he wouldn't have to hold back. What Leo had thought was the end was merely the prelude. An alpha's stamina was beyond his imagination. As dawn broke, Julian finally released him. He placed a black card on the bedside table. Leo's voice was too hoarse to speak. He watched Julian walk into the bathroom, took a deep breath, and staggered to his feet. He carefully took the card and gathered his clothes. Never stay the night at a client's home. It was a rule at the club because the wealthy despised complications. He and Julian had been classmates. Betas were the most invisible members of society, and his grades were unremarkable. He had barely spoken to Julian before graduation. Only a few times during basketball practice, when Julian's team was short a player, Leo was pushed in as a substitute. Julian was a natural leader on the court, and many people loved to watch him play. Once, in the middle of a game, his rut began. Julian was a high-level alpha, and his ruts, which came every 3 months, were always intense. His friends were overwhelmed by his pheromones, so Leo took him to the nurse's office. For the first time, he was grateful to be a beta, as it allowed him this proximity. Julian was burning up, his eyes dark and feverish. He leaned on Leo's shoulder, pressing close. Leo couldn't smell the pheromones, but the heat of his breath on his neck was a sensation he never forgot. Later, Julian's parents divorced, and he often missed school. The next time Leo heard anything about him, it was that he had gone abroad. Leo had thought that if he worked hard enough, he might get into the same university Julian aimed for, but reality made him understand the chasm between them was impassable. The black card Julian gave him held $1 million. Leo was stunned when he saw the balance. He had heard of clients giving generous tips, but he never expected this. He went to the hospital and paid off the outstanding medical bills. The surgery still required another $700,000. He never saw the old tycoon at the club again, but he did run into Julian once while working a part-time job at a convenience store. A young man with a blushing face came in to buy a few boxes of small toys. He was clearly an omega, sweet and delicate looking. Leo's gaze drifted to the car outside. Julian was in the driver's seat of a sports car, his arm casually draped over the open door, smoke curling from his fingertips. When Julian looked over, Leo quickly averted his eyes and hid behind a display rack. He rang up the Omega's purchase with a blank expression, though he desperately wanted to say that the size was wrong for Julian, who would need the largest. The Omega paid and got into the car. Leo stared at the exhaust fumes long after the car was gone. On Valentine's Day, the club was hosting an event, and many clients came. Betas were always the last to be called from the back. His friend, Sam, brought him some late-night food when he arrived for his shift, telling him to eat something so he wouldn't get drunk too easily. Sam was an Omega, with a cute face and dimples when he smiled. He worked as a bartender at the club, and they often ate together. Leo rarely got clients, and Sam would joke about taking him on as an apprentice to teach him bartending. Leo thought he would have another empty night, but a VIP room upstairs was short-staffed, and the manager pulled him in to fill the spot. Inside, a group of trust fund kids casually talked about multi-million-dollar condos and 10-figure business deals. A red-haired playboy named Chase pulled Leo over and made him drink. Leo quietly listened to their boasting and gossip when a familiar name caught his ear. Someone mentioned that Julian Vance was back and they should throw him a welcome party. Another replied that he'd been back for a while and was rumored to be getting married. That explained it. They had thought he would stay abroad. Someone else wondered if it was to that Omega from the James family, and the consensus was that it was possible, as they had supposedly lived together overseas. Leo's hand, which was peeling an orange, paused for a fraction of a second before he continued as if nothing had happened, arranging the fruit platter. He drank 2 bottles of champagne with Chase, his stomach churning. Just as he was looking for an excuse to go to the restroom, the door opened. Julian walked in, followed by that same sweet-looking Omega, Jamie. After a round of greetings, Julian's gaze swept over Leo, then moved on indifferently, as if he hadn't seen him. Leo kept his eyes down and poured Chase another drink. Chase wrapped an arm around him, sniffing him and commenting that after all the cloying Omega scents, Leo's clean fragrance was refreshing. He then asked if Leo wanted to go back to his place later. Even though he desperately needed the money, Leo wasn't in the mood to agree. He had looked up and seen Jamie talking to Julian. Julian had taken Jamie's glass of wine and replaced it with orange juice. So he could be considerate after all. Leo excused himself to go to the restroom. He was sick in the bathroom. When he came out, Julian was leaning against the sink, smoking. They were the only 2 people there. It would be rude not to say anything. He greeted him and went to wash his hands. The mix of perfume and another alpha's scent on him must have been overpowering because Julian frowned. Leo quickly stepped back, wanting to leave. Julian's cool voice stopped him, calling his name. He asked if Leo took on any client. Leo stood with his back to him, not daring to meet his eyes. He replied that it was his job. Julian scoffed at the word job, and the sound of his cigarette being extinguished hissed in the quiet room. Just as Leo opened the door, a hand reached out and closed it again. Julian pushed him against it, his hand clamping down on the back of his neck, his thumb stroking the spot he had repeatedly bitten. He asked if Leo knew what the black card meant. It meant that from now on, he was on call exclusively for him. Leo's eyes widened. As he tried to turn his head, his leg was blocked, and he couldn't resist. Julian leaned in close, challenging him to show him his skills, telling him to open his mouth. A searing palm covered his waist, a thumb testing the hem of his shirt. A phone rang, shattering the escalating tension. Leo flinched, trying to pull away, but Julian bit his neck, breaking the skin. It wasn't very painful, more of a sensation that made his knees weak. Julian answered the phone with one hand while the other traced Leo's lips. Jamie's voice came through, asking where he was. Julian replied that he was busy and they should carry on. Jamie's voice, soft and cajoling, then asked if Julian would come to his place later, reminding him of a promise to help. Leo listened quietly, his mind drifting. Their relationship seemed close. Why then did Julian need him for release? He remembered the wall of toys, and an answer formed in his mind. Omegas were delicate and couldn't handle pain. A beta like him, with no pheromones, could be tormented without consequence. He stared at a potted plant in the corner, trying to ignore their sweet exchange. Julian tilted his chin up, forcing him to pay attention. His fingers skimmed his lips, then slipped inside his mouth, pressing against his canine tooth. Leo's tongue couldn't avoid it, licking his fingers several times. The light in Julian's eyes darkened. He told Jamie he would call him back and hung up. He withdrew his fingers, a brow raised, remarking that he didn't realize Leo was so good with his tongue. Leo's ears burned. Julian had been deliberately teasing him. He hadn't meant to lick his hand at all. After tormenting him for a while longer, Julian seemed to lose interest in Leo's stiff, unresponsive state. He pushed him away with a cold expression, questioning why he could smile so freely for others but turned into a block of wood with him. The client was angry. Leo quickly apologized. Julian ignored him and walked out. Leo straightened his messy clothes, catching a glimpse of his flushed face in the mirror. After a few steps, Julian paused and turned back impatiently, asking what he was waiting for. Did he want to go back to his job? He ordered Leo to come with him. Julian took him back to the same penthouse. He was silent the entire ride, and even a fool could see he was upset. While Julian showered, Leo made him a cup of hibiscus tea to help with the alcohol. Julian emerged in a bathrobe, and Leo scurried over with the tea like an eager servant. Julian sat on the sofa and took a sip, his pale fingers tracing the rim of the cup. He remarked that one cup of tea wasn't enough to appease him. Leo explained that he wasn't trying to appease him. It was what he should do. Julian's gaze swept the room, noticing the humidifier and air conditioning were set to perfect levels. A fruit platter and a glass of milk were on the table. The bedroom had been made comfortable, anticipating his every need without him having to lift a finger. He raised an eyebrow and asked if Leo did this for all his clients. Leo hesitated before nodding. It was all part of the training from the manager. Remembering a client's preferences was his duty. But he had known Julian's preferences by heart for a long time. Suddenly, the cup was placed on the table with a dull thud. Julian's cold gaze landed on him, seemingly angrier than before. Before Leo could figure out why, Julian's voice, cool and sharp, instructed him to go kneel by the bed. When Leo returned to his rented apartment, his body ached as if it had been disassembled. If it weren't for his clothes, the marks would surely draw strange looks. He asked Sam about the black card. Sam was shocked that he didn't know. Receiving a black card meant he had been bought out. He could use it at any establishment to buy anything. Sam mentioned it was a legend at the club, and no one had ever actually seen one. So, the card wasn't just a debit card with a balance. It could also be used like a CR card with no limit. Leo stood frozen. The manager had never mentioned this. He only focused on training the pretty Omegas. A plain beta like him was like a rooster that couldn't lay eggs, left out of the loop on many of the unspoken rules. With the black card, he no longer had to wait around at the club. A week passed without any contact from Julian. He didn't have his number and had no way of finding him. He figured Julian would call when he needed him. He went to the hospital, paid the remaining fees, and told his sister, Molly, to prepare for her treatment without worry. Molly had lost a lot of weight. She looked at him with her small, pale face, wanting to say something but holding back. It made his heart ache. Freed from the burden of the surgery costs, Leo had a brief moment of respite. Sam had the day off, so Leo bought groceries to cook him a meal as a thank you. Sam had helped a lot while his sister was hospitalized. Sam was thrilled at the prospect of a home-cooked meal and eagerly picked out a pile of ingredients to take back to Leo's apartment, chattering about how much he missed Leo's cooking. At the entrance to his apartment building, Leo felt a pair of eyes on him. He turned around but saw only a few scattered pedestrians. That evening, he made roast chicken, garlic shrimp, and a beef stew, all simple home-style dishes. Sam loved them and ate until he was stuffed, collapsing on the sofa with a contented burp. He joked that if Leo were an Omega, he would marry him on the spot. Leo scoffed and told him to go wash the dishes. Sam was alpha-phobic and a homosexual who was only attracted to Omegas, a secret only Leo knew. As Leo was washing grapes, his phone lit up. Seeing the unfamiliar number, he had a premonition and quickly took the phone to the balcony. When he answered, a familiar voice came through. It was him. Leo asked what he wanted. The voice told him to come down, that he was outside his building. Before Leo could reply, the call ended. He went downstairs. A Bentley looked strikingly out of place in front of the dilapidated building. He got into the passenger seat. The atmosphere in the car was heavy. Julian stared at him, his face like stone, and asked who the man in his apartment was. He reminded Leo of the meaning of the black card. Leo assured him he hadn't forgotten, then explained that Sam was his roommate, a bartender at the club, and it wasn't what Julian was thinking. Julian's expression softened slightly at the word roommate, but he still demanded to go up and see for himself. Leo hesitated, making excuses about his place being too messy. The truth was he was embarrassed for Julian to see his tiny, run-down apartment. He had nothing decent to even offer a man of Julian's stature. Julian let out a cold snort, questioning if it was messy or if there was something he didn't want him to see. When it became clear Leo wasn't going to invite him up, Julian didn't insist. His face was grim as he impatiently reached for a cigarette, only to find the pack empty. His irritation deepened. Leo watched him crush the empty pack and quickly offered to go buy some. Julian grabbed his arm. In the dim light of the car, a wicked smile curled his lips. Though it held no warmth, his handsome face was captivating. Leo was momentarily mesmerized. Julian said he didn't need a smoke. There were other ways to let off steam. The implication was clear. Leo's hands clenched the hem of his shirt. The manager had taught many ways to please clients, none of them respectable. Looking at Julian's displeased eyes, Leo steeled himself, climbed over the console, and sat on his lap. He stammered that he could help him. His hand tentatively reached for Julian's belt. The next second, his wrist was seized. Julian narrowed his eyes and asked who had taught him that. Leo answered honestly that it was the manager. This time, Julian's anger seemed to dissipate a little. He frowned, disliking the sweet Omega scent of Sam that clung to Leo. He ordered him to take off his shirt, saying he preferred Leo's own clean scent. Leo was only wearing a button-down shirt. Taking it off would mean he looked down, embarrassed, his fingers hesitantly starting on the buttons. As his neck and collarbone were exposed, Julian's gaze intensified, his fingertips drumming impatiently. Before Leo could finish, Julian pulled him close and bit down on his neck. He didn't have a scent gland, but Julian always bit him as if trying to devour him whole. His hot breath washed over Leo's skin. Pressed so tightly together, Leo could feel something even hotter against him. His face flushed, and he didn't know where to put his hands. Julian held him tightly, the force so great it felt like he was trying to merge their bodies. If Leo could have smelled pheromones, he would have known Julian was on the verge of losing control. An Alpha's scent enveloped him, so thick it was like being steeped in it. In seconds, it had completely masked Sam's scent, but Leo was oblivious, aware only of Julian's increasingly aggressive hands. Just as the Bentley started to rock, a phone rang at the most inopportune moment. Leo saw it was a call from the hospital and quickly pushed Julian away. A frantic nurse told him his sister had pulled out her .4 and disappeared. They were looking for her. Leo's heart skipped a beat. Julian grabbed his hand, asking what was wrong. Leo apologized, explaining he had an emergency at the hospital and couldn't stay. As he scrambled to get out, Julian stopped him, buckled his seatbelt for him, and sped toward the hospital. He rushed into the building, forgetting to even thank Julian. A nurse told him with relief that Molly had been found. He entered the hospital room where Molly was hiding under the covers, her eyes red from crying. He asked her what was wrong, gently coaxing her. She had always been a good kid, taking the bitterest medicine without complaint. Something must have happened. Molly's muffled voice came from under the blanket, saying she didn't want treatment anymore. She wanted to go home. He asked why she would give up now, when she was so close to getting better. He pulled back the covers to find her pillow soaked with tears. She cried that she was the reason he was suffering, that she had seen the bruises on his wrists and neck and thought he was getting beaten up for her sake. She would rather die than see him hurt. Leo was both amused and heartbroken. He gently explained he had just had too much to drink and bumped into things. He made her pinky promise that he was fine before she finally calmed down. He went to thank the doctors and nurses and inquire about the surgery schedule. When he returned, there was another person in the room. Julian had brought a pile of toys and supplements. He was holding a beautiful doll, making Molly smile. Molly looked at him curiously, asking if he was really her brother's friend. Julian, while peeling an apple into the shape of a little bear, assured her that she would be seeing him a lot from now on. Watching her smile, the weight on Leo's shoulders lightened. He had thought Julian had left. The moonlight outside was bright, but all Leo could see was the tall figure of Julian Vance. In high school, Julian had seemed unapproachable, but he had his own unique kindness. When other alphas ordered Leo around, using basketball as an excuse to physically dominate him, Julian had pulled him onto his team, always passing him the ball. He never looked down on him for being a beta. It was those small, cumulative acts that had captured Leo's heart completely. As he was lost in thought, Julian turned around and joined him in the hallway. He asked if this was the reason Leo had dropped out of college to work at the club. Leo nodded, thanking him for his help that night. Julian told him not to call him Mr. Vance, but to use his name. Leo felt a strange discomfort meeting his intense gaze, but he managed to say his name. A faint smile touched Julian's lips. Before Leo could properly thank him, his phone lit up. It was a call from Jamie, who seemed to need him urgently. The spell was broken. Leo quickly urged him to go, remembering that Julian had someone he cared about. He walked him to the hospital entrance, watching his retreating figure and feeling a pang of envy for the carefree young Omega. Lately, rumors were swirling online about Julian and Jamie's engagement. After scrolling through the gossip, Leo opened Julian's social media profile. It was clean, almost empty. He couldn't find a single clue. His heart felt hollow. That afternoon, he was covering a shift at the convenience store for the owner, who was in the hospital. As the last rays of sunset disappeared, a blonde alpha walked in. He picked out a box of orange-flavored condoms and, as he was paying, asked Leo with a smirk if the brand was any good. Leo replied curtly that he didn't know and stated the total. The blonde man leaned closer, asking if Leo had ever used them. if he liked the taste of orange. Leo coolly pushed him away and urged him to pay. The man paid, then asked if Leo wanted to get a late-night snack with him, with an obvious undertone. Leo, his eyes downcast, said he didn't like eating with blondes, and he especially hated the taste of orange. He warned him that another word would land him in a police station. The man scoffed at his audacity before leaving. As he was closing up, his phone rang. A deep voice on the other end took him a moment to place. It was the old tycoon, Mr. Linden. The man's anxious voice paused when Leo greeted him. Then he corrected him, sounding almost angry, saying that Julian's father was long dead. He was his uncle. The topic of Julian's father seemed to be a taboo. He told Leo to get to the hillside mansion as soon as possible. Julian was sick and his rut had started. He was losing control. Mr. Linden, and Alpha himself, couldn't go near the second floor, where the pheromones were thick enough to drown someone. Leo asked why he didn't call Jamie, the Omega who should be able to soothe an Alpha in rut. Mr. Linden sighed, explaining that Julian had a past illness that made him insensitive, even hostile, to pheromones. He urged Leo to hurry, promising to pay any price. Leo's heart seized. He quickly packed up and left. Julian was sick? That explained his recent volatility. When he arrived at the mansion, Mr. Linden was waiting with a syringe of suppressant, though he admitted it might not work. Leo took it and went upstairs. The staff on the first floor were all leaving, unable to withstand the pressure of the frenzied alpha pheromones. Being a beta, Leo felt nothing. He pushed open the bedroom door. The room was a wreck. Julian was huddled in a corner of the balcony, soaking wet as if he tried to cool himself with water. His clothes clung to his muscular frame. His bloodshot eyes snapped toward Leo, the oppressive aura so intense it stopped him in his tracks. Julian growled, asking who sent him. When Leo said it was his uncle, Julian told him to get out, that he would hurt him. Leo replied that it didn't matter. He belonged to him anyway, so it was fine no matter how much it hurt. Julian looked at him, stunned. Leo slowly approached, clutching the suppressant in his pocket, completely unaware of the faint scent of another alpha's orange pheromones clinging to his clothes. To Julian, in the throes of his rut, the scent was a trigger. When Leo was a step away, Julian's eyes became terrifyingly dark. He seemed to transform, the air around him turning frigid. Leo instinctively stepped back. That single movement was all it took. Julian lunged, pinning him to the carpet. He snarled, calling him a liar, accusing him of being with someone else. He demanded to know what Leo had done with him, why he smelled of him. His sharp teeth sank into Leo's neck. He pulled out the suppressant and managed to inject it into Julian's scent gland. Julian grunted, then pulled his head back, wiping a smear of blood from his lips. His eyes were devoid of light. He asked if Leo really thought that would work, then pulled the needle out with a cold laugh. The gland, one of the body's most vulnerable spots, had been pierced, but he barely reacted. His previous illness had clearly damaged it. Looking into Julian's dark, pathological gaze, Leo felt the urge to flee for the first time. But there was also a helplessness in his eyes. That moment of hesitation cost him his freedom for the next 3 days. Any attempt to leave was met with a hand grabbing his ankle, dragging him back for a more forceful punishment. The room was a landscape of their struggle. The sofa, the bathroom, the mirror, all bore traces of Julian's frenzy. If not for the resilience of a beta's body, Leo would have passed out on the first night. In the dead of night, when Julian held him tight, an inexplicable feeling bloomed in Leo's chest. He knew Julian liked someone else, that he was just an outlet, but he shamefully wanted to be closer. It was like a monkey reaching for the moon in the water, knowing it was an illusion but scooping up the untouchable reflection again and again, content with even a second of its shimmering presence. At noon, the roar of a sports car engine woke him. The room had been cleaned. He moved slightly, and his body screamed in protest. He heard Jamie's voice from downstairs. The manager's echoed in his mind. Never cause trouble for a client, especially by being discovered by their family. He looked at the bruises covering his body in the mirror, hastily wrapped a towel around himself, and hid in a closet just as footsteps approached. He could hear muffled voices from the hallway. It was Jamie, asking Julian in a desperate tone if there was any other way. His heat was approaching, and he was going crazy. Julian's voice was calm, asking if he had tried the handcuffs. Jamie replied that he had, but they didn't hold, and he almost got beaten up. They moved into the study next door, and the voices faded. Hidden in the dark closet, Leo let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. The conversation had been strange. Julian had a master pet fetish? He had heard of such things at the club. Were he and Jamie in that kind of relationship? Did Julian use the wall of toys with him? Probably. He would be gentle with Jamie and Omega. A dull ache emanated from the hollow part of his chest. He touched a bruise on his wrist, the sharp pain bringing him back to reality. He forced himself to stop thinking about it. Suddenly, the closet door opened. Julian, dressed in casual home clothes, looked perfectly normal. Seeing Leo huddled among his suits, a smile played on his lips. He asked if Leo had a special hobby, if he liked hide and seek, or if he just liked the smell of his clothes. Leo apologized and asked if Jamie had left. Julian confirmed that he had and pulled him out of the closet. Leo clutched the loose towel, meeting Julian's teasing gaze as he surveyed the marks on his body like trophies. Then Leo noticed the bite marks and scratches on Julian's neck, visible because of his loose collar. He was horrified, asking why Julian wasn't wearing a turtleneck, asking if his fiancée had seen them, if he already knew about him. His mind flooded with images of being caught as the other man. Julian raised an eyebrow and asked who his fiancée was. Leo replied that it was Jamie, asking if he had caused trouble. Julian's brow furrowed slightly. He questioned who told him Jamie was his fiancée. Leo said it was all over the news. Julian scoffed, saying the tabloids also claimed he had an illegitimate child abroad, and asked if Leo wanted to see him, or perhaps become his stepfather. Leo shook his head, embarrassed. Julian led him to the sofa and began applying medicine to his bruises. He explained that Jamie was in love with his own uncle and had been trying unsuccessfully to seduce him for a long time. He had come to Julian for help. Leo's mind reeled. The sweet-looking Omega was that bold? He asked how Julian was helping. It turned out the James family owned a pharmaceutical company, and Julian had procured a special drug for him. Leo wondered if it was legal. Julian's eyes flicked up, a small smile on his face. He said that the next time Leo was disobedient and went looking for other alphas, he would find out just how legal it was. Leo swallowed hard and explained the origin of the orange pheromone scent again. Julian's expression was unreadable. Kneeling before him, his touch was gentle as he applied the ointment. He told him to speak up if it hurt, apologizing for losing control during his rut. His gaze was soft, and for a moment, it felt unreal. But knowing he didn't love Jamie, the hollowness inside him began to heal. After that day, Julian's attitude toward him softened. He was there when Molly had her surgery, holding Leo's hand in the cold hospital corridor and reassuring him everything would be okay. In those moments, Their relationship felt nothing like a sordid financial transaction. Leo cherished the dry warmth of his palm. The surgery was a success. When Molly was moved to the recovery room, Leo finally succumbed to exhaustion. He woke up on a narrow sofa, held tightly in someone's arms. When he shifted, Julian's arms tightened. He was told to stay still or he would fall. Julian hadn't left. He had stayed because he was worried. Those 3 simple words made Leo's heart flutter. He felt Julian's warm breath on his neck, a familiar sensation. As if reading his mind, Julian suddenly spoke. He asked if Leo remembered the time he carried him to the nurse's office, how he had leaned on him just like this. He confessed that he had desperately wanted to bite him back then, but was afraid of scaring him. A lump formed in Leo's throat. He asked hesitantly if Julian had recognized him all along. Julian's reply was a dry obviously, reminding Leo of his perfect memory and top grades in school. A mix of sourness and embarrassment washed over Leo. He hadn't wanted their reunion to be like this. Seeing his silence, Julian nudged him with his knee, asking if Leo hadn't recognized him. Leo lied, claiming he had met too many people and hadn't remembered, a flimsy attempt to protect his last shred of dignity. Julian squeezed his hand, a bit too hard, and told him he had better remember from now on, or he would face the consequences. On the day Molly was discharged, Sam came with Leo to pick her up. Molly adored Sam's scent and hugged him immediately. She then asked if brother Julian was coming. Leo said he was busy, but as they reached the hospital entrance, Julian pulled up in his car, the trunk filled with gifts for Molly. She thanked him with a bright smile, her eyes sparkling. Leo, feeling cornered, offered to treat Julian to dinner as thanks. Julian glanced at Sam and said that while dinner was fine, he wanted Leo's cooking. It wasn't that it was difficult, but it meant a trip to the supermarket first. Leo didn't want to sully Julian's refined palate with his cooking, but he couldn't refuse him. The 4 of them ended up at the grocery store before heading back to Leo's apartment. As Julian parked, he saw Sam holding Molly's hand while also carrying a bag of groceries for Leo. A neighbor commented cheerfully that they looked like a happy family of 3. Leo quickly shook his head. Julian's face was a mask as he cut the conversation short and walked to the elevator. Leo didn't want Julian to see the state of his apartment. But Molly immediately dragged him into her room to play with the Legos and dolls he had bought her, which now covered her small bed. Laughter drifted from the room, and Leo's tension began to ease. He cooked his best dishes. During dinner, Julian's brow smoothed in what seemed to be pleasure. The peeling walls, the damp floor, the rusted window lock, none of it seemed to matter to anyone. Leo quietly relaxed. Sam placed a piece of fish on his plate, first removing the skin and popping it into his own mouth. Leo didn't like fish skin, but Sam did, a habit born from their many shared meals. While eating, Leo carefully picked the bones from Molly's fish. The shrimp was cooked in a simple broth, and he had made a special dipping sauce for Julian, omitting the ginger he disliked. He saw Julian try a bite. Julian ate quietly, his manners impeccable, but halfway through the meal, he frowned slightly. Leo sat anxiously, feeling full after only a few bites. Julian didn't stay long after dinner, citing an early meeting. As Leo walked him downstairs, Julian was silent again. Leo wondered if his cooking had been that bad. As he was replaying the meal in his head, Julian stopped under a streetlight. The orange glow softened the lines of his face. He told Leo they should end their arrangement. Leo's mind went blank. The delayed impact hit his heart like a dull thud. He knew it. He shouldn't have let Julian see his home. Who would want to continue with someone from such a poor background? He curled his fingers into fists and agreed. He asked Julian to wait, ran upstairs, retrieved the black card, and handed it back to him. He thanked him for his help and promised not to bother him again. He stood in the shadows cast by the building, just a few feet away but unable to cross the distance to stand with him in the light. Julian stared at the card, his brow tightening and then relaxing. He sighed. He explained that ending the arrangement meant they could start the next phase of their relationship. He offered a choice: dating or marriage. Leo's brain short-circuited. He looked up, his pupils constricting, and met Julian's deep, serious gaze. Julian confessed he couldn't stand seeing him with anyone else, that he was selfish and wanted him all to himself. He asked if that was okay. His words were direct, but his thoughts were a dark, jealous storm against anyone who came near Leo. After a few seconds of silence, he pressed on, reminding Leo that he knew all his habits, that he knew what to do in bed with the slightest gesture. He dared Leo to say he felt nothing for him. His fingers were tense. Leo's throat felt tight, too emotional to speak. The ingrained habit of self-deprecation made him want to deny it, but looking into Julian's expectant eyes, he couldn't lie. He admitted he had felt something for a long time, but that Julian was too far away, out of his reach. He reminded him that it was Julian who had invited him to play basketball, who had promised he wouldn't let him lose. But then one day, Julian was gone, and Leo couldn't find him anywhere. He asked what would happen now, how long Julian could like him, a reality that loomed between them. He didn't want to dive in, only to drown while reaching for a moon he could never grasp. Julian watched him intently. He said he didn't know how long he could like him, because he couldn't predict when he would die. But he knew that this time he wouldn't let him lose. He asked if Leo would trust him one more time. He then took a step toward him, just as he had countless times in their school days, walking out of the sunlight to ask if Leo wanted to join him. Leo's heart hammered against his ribs. The answer was already there. This was Julian Vance, the man he had loved for 6 years. He couldn't refuse him. He had nothing left to lose anyway. If Julian was walking toward him, why shouldn't he try? He choked out his agreement. The tension in Julian's hands finally released. A smile touched his lips. He told Leo to come over and kiss him. Leo stepped forward, and they stood together under the streetlight. The moment his lips touched Julian's, he was pulled into a tight embrace. Julian took control, the kiss deep and possessive. He and Julian were together. After leaving the club, Leo went back to college while working part-time. Every day after work, Julian would pick up Molly from elementary school and then come get him. His classmates thought he had gotten married young. Julian bought an apartment downtown, convenient for both of their schools. When Leo said it was a waste, Julian told him to repay him in bed. Shameless. But Leo noticed that whenever they were intimate, Julian insisted on blindfolding him or turning off the lights. One time, when Leo insisted they shower together, Julian reluctantly undressed. Leo saw that his body was covered in scars, countless marks crisscrossing his skin, some on his arms looking self-inflicted. He asked what had happened. Julian shrugged it off. He explained that after high school, he wasn't abroad studying, as everyone thought. His father had sent him to a psychiatric hospital overseas, a tactic to gain leverage over his mother in their divorce proceedings. They were fighting over assets, and he had been left there for 2 years, forgotten. After his father died and his mother moved away, his uncle rescued him. He went to school in the UK where he met Jamie. It was during that time that he was injured, his ruts became unstable, and his mental state deteriorated. He admitted that the nurses in the hospital were sadistic, using various methods, including electroshock on his scent gland, if he refused medication. His voice trailed off. A sharp pain lanced through Leo's heart, as if the scars were on his own skin. Julian forced a smile, saying they shouldn't talk about it. Leo turned on the shower. As water traced the raised scars, he hugged him, gently kissing the marks. He told Julian that from now on, when he got sick, Leo would be with him. He could do whatever he wanted to him. He would rather be hurt himself than see Julian hurt himself. As his fingers traced a scar, Julian's body tensed. He laughed, mowing Leo's hair and asking if this was his way of seducing him. The next second, he was lifted into the air. Julian kissed him, and as Leo's vision swam, Julian whispered in his ear that he was taking his medication and would be okay. He wasn't taking medication. He was devouring him. My name is Julian Vance. For as long as I can remember, my parents were in conflict. I lived a life of constant tension, thinking good grades might fix things. They didn't. While my friends were dating, clubbing, and racing cars, I felt nothing. I thought I might be asexual, until I met Leo Carter. Once I got hurt playing basketball. Leo had everything: bandages, antiseptic, towels. It seemed like no matter what happened, he could fix it. When he leaned close, I smelled a clean, fresh scent, like a forest after the rain. I thought it was his pheromones, but later I found out he was a beta. Leo was always quiet, a stark contrast to the sycophancy of my other friends. I liked his quietness. I pulled him onto my basketball team so others would stop bullying him. For a long time, I just grew accustomed to his presence, not realizing that my eyes would subconsciously search for him in the stands when I played. Then my father took me away. Greed made them show their ugliest sides. I wasn't important to them. No one cared how I felt. No one truly loved me. 2 years later, I escaped that hospital and returned to the normal world. But I was sick. I was anxious, paranoid, manic. It felt like a beast was inside me, clawing to get out. My uncle found me psychologists and even brought in people for exorcisms. When nothing worked, he brought home a beta. I recognized Leo instantly. He was still so foolish. Even when I hurt him, he didn't make a sound. During my rut, when my hands were shaking, he offered me his neck, asking if biting him hard would make me feel better. In his careful, hesitant gaze, I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. The pale neck I hadn't dared to bite 6 years ago was finally mine. I held him, accepting his hidden love, and in that instant, my soul felt complete. From that day on, I had a new interest: teasing Leo, wanting Leo, loving Leo. So please, I beg you, take the initiative to love me back.